Hey, I am iBot and I am back with CPU comparison and GPU comparison. We are comparing today Apple A13 Bionic, Snapdragon 845 and Kirin 980. And if you're new to this channel, please do like, share and subscribe and hit the bell icon if you like it. So we are first going to compare the CPU of the chipset. Following chipset A13 Bionic starts first. So Apple A13 Bionic is made with TSMC technology, 7 nanometer technology. For more TSMC information, you can check out their website as well. And TSMC, by the way, is a company who processes the 3D FinFET transistors technology, a 64-bit architecture or a 128-bit architecture, making on the CPU required. So Apple A13 Bionic consists of a 6-core CPU, that is 2x vertex cores, having a primary clock speed of 2.65 gigahertz. And all the nerds who don't know what clock speed is, it's like a tick of your crystal. Tick, 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 tick. It's like this. If you imagine every transistor or every electronic device which consists of transistors is actually semiconductors, right? Semiconductors have crystals inside them. Those crystal lattices tick, 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 just a phase transition. That's the clock speed. Okay, this is the most layman's explanation I can give on clock speed. For more information, you can also, Google what's clock speed and check it out. So let's get ahead. 2x core vertex cores consisting for a 6-core CPU of A13 Bionic, 2x vertex cores which have a clock speed of 2.65 gigahertz and 4x Tempest cores having a secondary clock speed of 1.59 gigahertz. So that is pretty impressive. Going for the clock speed technology of Apple A13 Bionic, having a 2.65 gigahertz is way too far, bro. Way too far. More than you can imagine. And Vortex cores and what are Tempest cores? I can make a video on that later on. That's a pretty decent topic. Not so interesting thing. Like it's like if you are into electronics and you know what makes electronics, then you'll understand what's Vortex cores and what's Tempest cores. So anyway, let's get ahead on to Snapdragon 845. Snapdragon 845 is found on OnePlus 7, OnePlus 6T, I guess. Yes, and it's an octa-core CPU which is made with Cairo 385 chipset. So octa-core CPU means there are 8 cores in that. So that is made by 10nm TSMC distribution. TSMC, I just explained it to you. You can also Google it. What is TSMC technology of 10 nanometer? So octa-core here goes with a 2-group distribution for Snapdragon 845. So 2-group distribution, 4 Cortex cores of A75, and these are all the specification of those chipset technologies which you can actually Google and find out. 4 Cortex at primary speed of 2.8 gigahertz. That's a lot more than the A13 Bionic. But what makes the Bionic better is that they are distributed pretty unevenly, maybe. And by uneven distribution, that's pretty interesting, right? So if it's actually even, you would think that it's better, but actually it's not. As I told you earlier, it's like this. If you're an electronics student, if you're into electronics, you'll understand what is uneven distribution and what is even distribution in the chipset technology. So moving on ahead, 4 Cortex A75 at a primary clock speed of 2.8 gigahertz, and the second distribution consisting of 4 Cortex A55 at a secondary clock speed of 1.8 gigahertz. So this actually kind of slows down the Snapdragon 845 at times. I'll tell you the exact reason why. Because when you actually distribute 4 cores together, okay, so there are 2 distributions, 4 cores and 4 cores each. The heat dissipation which occurs inside those cores is actually combined into 4 cores together. Okay, and as far as we know, for Apple A13 Bionic, there are only two vertex cores which get a equal amount of heat dissipation. So the 2 cores actually function at a greater ideal speed, you can say. What is ideal speed and what is practical speed? That's pretty, that's pretty much not into my topic. You can actually Google it again, what's ideal speed and what's practical speed of a CPU. So moving on to Kirin 980, it's also an octa-core CPU processor having a 2-group distribution of 4-4. 2 are from Cortex A76 running at a primary clock speed of 2.6 GHz. 2 are at a secondary speed of 1.92 GHz, and 4 Cortex processors at the second distribution at A55 at a secondary clock speed of 1.8 GHz. Now, resuming and pausing and going back, you can actually listen to what I said about Apple A13 Bionic. 2x Vortex cores and 4x Tempest cores. That's what makes A13 Bionic a special one. Okay, and as far as we know for Kirin 980, this technology is pretty outdated, because going into too much detail, it's like this: they are not internally piped well with each other, which actually breaks their heat dissipation flow. Everything depends on heat over here. Heat is the major factor from where your FinFET transistor technology works. What's FinFET? Google it again. So, winner of the CPU comparison is obviously Apple A13 Bionic. And we move on now to the GPU comparison between A13 Bionic, Snapdragon 845, Snapdragon 855, and Kirin 980. And well, let's start with Apple A13 Bionic, the previous winner. It has a 4-core GPU processor running at an innumerable and superb speed of 1100 megahertz at a clock second. 1100 megahertz at a clock cycle, clock second, whatever you want to call it. Then we have Snapdragon 845, which is powered by Adreno 630. Adreno 630 is technically a type of technology used by the Adreno industries. No doubt Adreno is a kind of a technological industry. You can actually Google it and find it out even more, go into further depth. So Adreno 630 has a clock speed of 730 megahertz, and Snapdragon 855 use Adreno model 640, having a better clock speed than Snapdragon 845. Obviously, it's around 750 megahertz. And the Kirin 980 uses the Mali G76 GPU processing unit, which GPU processing unit means the graphic processing unit, because the Mali G76 is technically a GPU of Kirin 980. So if you can imagine, it's like a function under a function. Oh, to all the serious programmers, there's a shout out to you guys. Now, there's where the picture comes up, 720 megahertz. So this speed is actually very, very, very low in comparison with Snapdragon 845 and Snapdragon 855, which gives us a total winner as Apple A13 Bionic. Yay! Apple wins again. So with this, we are here concluding CPU versus GPU comparison. If you have any doubts regarding the CPU and GPU comparison, you can obviously put in the comment section below and I will answer them all. Regarding the A13 Bionic, Snapdragon 845, 855 and Kirin 980, this was a very specific comparison between Snapdragon and Apple A13 Bionic, because a lot of people think that Snapdragon processors, which are in OnePlus 7 or the upcoming OnePlus 8, are actually better than the Apple ones. So here it is, guys. I am actually presenting you with the facts and stating that yes, Apple A13 Bionic has a better 64-bit architecture, which is enabling Apple to, just break past the barriers. So we are concluding this video right here, and the next video will be obviously on the topic as discussed in the previous video as well. We are doing this on course, so the next one will be the RAM of the Apple iOS devices, and I will explain it to you that why do laymen think that Androids are better than Apple in the RAM comparison. I will show you exactly why Apple is doing way better in the RAM comparison and why their RAM memory is low than the Android devices. So till then, stay tuned, stay safe in this lockdown, guys. Peace out. BotFam. Peace out.